We are live. It's John Baxter Live. We've got an exciting show today. Welcome and thank you for joining. We've got a 30-year UCLA School of Medicine professor who created the future beyond supplements. With Dr. Mike, that's going to jump on the show here momentarily. Not only was he, a professor at UCLA School of Medicine, he is tied in the holistic approach for the mind-body connection. So not only did he have all this influence in academia and medicine, right? He's taken a different approach, and that's what it requires in today's day and age. Here he is. How you doing, Dr. Mike?
Great. Thanks for having me, John. Good to see you.
Well, let me ask you, just before we begin, I'd just like to ask, what have you been up to lately?
Well, I went to a biohacking congress in Miami, and that was tremendous. As a biohacker myself, excited to see all the evolutions of technology and people taking responsibility into their own hands. Got to, be by the anti-aging bed and, a number of other things that I think are going to definitely help lots of people in lots of ways.
Just so that our listeners know a little bit more about you, trying to give you the proper introduction, but I'd rather hear it from you. Go ahead and give us some of the background story of where you started and how you got here.
Sure. Yeah. Well, started in New York City. So I went to undergraduate and medical school in New York City and did my residency training there at New York Hospital, Cornell Medical Center, and Sloan Kettering. Prestigious institutions. Right from the beginning, I specialized in physical medicine, rehabilitation, and pain management. Was always interested in the mind-body connection. In undergraduate, I majored in psychology. Always saw the interface of stress and disease, as many of us know. So after finishing my training in New York at Cornell, New York Hospital, I went out to Los Angeles to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. I actually ran a department there for a while in the outpatient physical medicine, dealing with lots of different problems, musculoskeletal pain, many rehabilitation issues. And at that time, I had a mentor actually back in New York, John Sarno, who was a really world prominent doctor who was the first one to be an outspoken Western trained doctor, brought up the relationship of stress and back pain. And he sort of called out a lot of the medical profession saying, look, a lot of chronic pain is stress related. And, I got to study under him. It was very exciting. When I went out to Los Angeles, I brought a lot of that work out there relative to the mind-body connection. I was fortunate at Cedars-Sinai to run a department, ended up with a practice in Beverly Hills, part of a large spine institute doing pain management, rehabilitation. And really, although a lot of my partners were top spine surgeons, my goal was to really keep people out of spine surgery, have them rehabilitate in more holistic ways whenever possible, have them change their lifestyle, have them address all the issues that may contribute to chronic pain, and also a lot of the issues whereby stress and pain were sort of in a vicious cycle. So at that time, I became a clinic assistant professor at UCLA, had 30 years there. And, I was honored to teach in a prominent med school like UCLA. I actually saw, though, that a lot of the students themselves going through a system like that, it's highly stressful and very challenging. So I brought the things I was bringing into my own lifestyle once I got out to Los Angeles. I got deep into yoga, I got deep into meditation, and I ended up having the honor of bringing yoga therapy into the medical school as a course at UCLA, and mindfulness meditation as well. So, really teaching in the medical school about how these things are tools that everyone could use for overall health and wellness and vibrancy, and then especially turning on the medical students themselves who are, in their 20s typically, at a very stressful, intense time in their life, having tools for themselves to learn meditation, learn yoga, and see how they can enhance their health. So had a long-term practice in Los Angeles, ended up having quite a number of clinics. And many of the clinics I had always were integrated clinics. So we'd have chiropractors, physical therapists, psychologists, exercise physiologists, acupuncturists. So it was always about taking a more holistic approach to the individual, considering their whole life, bringing in whatever we can.
So let me ask you, what is the definition of a medical food? Because, let's go over that first, because I'm learning as we go, and I've learned a couple times already.
Yeah, thank you for that question, John, because interestingly, I was practicing medicine, teaching at a prominent med school, and I didn't know myself when I first got introduced to him. So I want to simplify that and paint a picture. We all have to have a basic level of nutrition in our bodies that if it's optimized at a cellular levels, our bodies will run well. And we all know that our bodies are the most natural grading healing mechanism, right? But when they're off nutritionally, I mean, it's been proven, you eat McDonald's all day, every day, you're going to get sick, right? Because you're not balanced right at a cellular level in the nutrient requirements. So it turns out in most diseases, there are different nutrient requirements if you have a disease. We'll take chronic pain for an example, right? It's like, a way to think of it is like if you think of a car running on the highway at 50 miles an hour using gas of 55 or 60, it's very efficient, right? But if it starts going up a big hill, it has a bigger demand, so it churns up more gas, right? Or I have an electric car, it eats up a lot more electricity going up the hill when I'm going flat, right? So it's like the body's like that. The nutritional demands of the body are increased in a disease state, right? Because it's like a car going uphill. So if you're in chronic pain and you're inflamed, chronic pain and inflammation, your nutrient demands, specifically of neurotransmitters, are increased. And we find that they're deficient in most people with chronic pain and inflammation. I'm going to use chronic pain and inflammation, and we could talk about sleep and obesity, but chronic pain and inflammation is so prevalent, as is sleep difficulties, that when your neurotransmitters are deficient, the neurotransmitters are the signaling molecules of the nervous system. And your nervous system, some level, controls everything, right? We have our spinal cord and our brain and how we feel. So neurotransmitters are the signaling molecules, and they regulate everything. And they're the communicators through the nerves in the nervous system. And they'll signal like hormones to perform through the endocrine system. So if your neurotransmitter levels are deficient and out of balance, your whole body will be off. And it turns out in chronic pain and inflammation, there's a deficiency of a number of neurotransmitters, right? Like GABA, like serotonin, like tryptophan. You've all heard of all of these, right? So what we have proved in the category of medical foods is that we're going to meet the nutrient demand in these disease states by balancing the neurotransmitter levels, bringing the body back to a balanced nutrient state at a cellular level so that it could go into a natural state of healing in chronic pain. And therefore, the pain signaling through the nervous system will get dampened, and the inflammation will be reduced because the neurotransmitter levels are optimized. And, the medical foods we're going to talk about do that by producing these neurotransmitters, providing the appropriate amino acid technologies, amino acid precursors through a certain technology to balance the deficient neurotransmitters. So this is true in chronic pain and inflammation. It's true in chronic sleep disorders. It's true in obesity. We have problems in obesity with appetite, and these can actually suppress the appetite because, as you can imagine, the appetite itself is very related to your state of mind and your stress level. And, people eat to calm their mood. So you often have decreased serotonin levels, and then you'll eat because it'll maybe produce some dopamine or serotonin. You'll feel better, but then it'll go into a vicious cycle. So that's true with obesity, it's true with chronic pain, it's true with chronic sleep.